Voters are heading to the polls for primaries in 4 states today. Primaries are happening now in South Carolina, Nevada, Maine, and North Dakota. And a special election is underway in Texas, where Republicans are fighting to take over the seat. Many of the primaries will test former President Trump's hold on the Republican Party. The frontrunner in the GOP primary in the Nevada Senate race is endorsed by Trump, and 2 Republican House incumbents in South Carolina are facing challengers by Trump-endorsed candidates. So for more on this, let's bring in some pros who have been following all of these races and can break it down for us. Musadiq Bidar and Aaron Navarro. Moose is CBS News tech and politics reporter, and Aaron is CBS News political unit associate producer. So Moose, I want to start with you. You are in Nevada right now. I know you've been on the ground reporting on all of these races. Many of these contests are often viewed as a measure of the former president's influence. That's something that we're tracking throughout these primaries. So how are these Trump-endorsed candidates doing where you are?
Yeah, hi, Caitlin. There are several races we're keeping an eye on today where you have candidates backed by former President Donald Trump, most notably the GOP Senate primary, where you have Adam Laxalt leading the pack. He is the state's former attorney general. He also served as former President Donald Trump's campaign co-chair here in Nevada, and he led a lot of the battles to overturn the results of the elections here. He filed lawsuits falsely claiming that dead people voted in the election. Those allegations were found to be false after an investigation by the Secretary of State's office here. And he's been running on that message that the 2020 election was stolen and that there needs to be better investigations on it. And he's currently leading by 14 points in the polls. Another race we're going to be keeping an eye on is the Secretary of State's race here. The leading candidate, Jim Marchant, former state lawmaker, has said that he would not have certified the results of the 2020 election here in Nevada, and he's been running on that platform. And it's important to note all of this because right now you have lawmakers in Washington, D.C. investigating how those conspiracy theories and allegations of the 2020 election being stolen led to the Capitol riots, and you have candidates here in Nevada running on that platform.
Right. A really good reminder that this is something that's continuing on in the Republican primaries, and especially in areas that they could be having jurisdiction over voting. And also, of course, that Senate race, a big target for Republicans hoping to win back the Senate. I'm curious about how early voting is going in Nevada. Any data, any sense of how that's going so far?
Yeah, early voting here it went on from May 28th to June 10th, and according to the Secretary of State's office, about 250,000 people have already participated. Just to give you a little context, in the 2018 primaries, 350,000 people voted. So we're expecting turnout to be around 20%. That is pretty low. What's interesting, however, is that more Democrats are voting by mail and more Republicans are voting in person. In fact, 60% of the early voting that took place in person was Republican voters compared to 30% of Democrats. So along with that theme of election integrity and not having trust in the results and in vote by mail processes, you have Republican voters here voting in person.
And how does what happens in Nevada tonight stand to impact politics on the national level in November?
Yeah, it's going to be huge. Well, first of all, the Senate seat is going to be a really close race. It's going to be a toss-up seat. The incumbent, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, barely won in 2016. She won without winning Washoe County here in Reno. And, Democrats generally run up the score in Clark County and hope to win over there. But this time, Republicans feel that it could be a little bit different. They feel that the issues, particularly the economy, where this state has been hit really hard. At the height of the pandemic, unemployment here reached almost 30%. And while some of that has scaled back a little bit, gas prices are really high at over $5.60 a gallon, the second highest average prices in the nation. And folks are feeling that at home and when they go grocery shopping. So a lot of the issues that are resonating on the national stage and a lot of the candidates are using that to message here ahead of the primaries, and that's going to be really important in the general election because Democrats want to hold these seats and Republicans feel like they can really turn the state red.
And Aaron, another area where we're seeing some kind of similar dynamics in the primary is in South Carolina, where former President Trump has weighed in. He's working to unseat 2 incumbent Republicans. Can you give us a little background? Who is he trying to unseat, and why is he focusing there?
Sure. So Tom Rice and Nancy Mace are the main names to look at. Those House Republicans that voted for Trump's impeachment and are running for re-election this year will especially be keeping an eye on the results of Rice's primary. Apart from Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, Rice sticks out as someone that has been vocal about defending his vote after the January 6 attacks. He voted with former President Trump nearly 90% of the time during his tenure and represents a very Trump-friendly district. But it is likely that he will head towards a runoff against State Representative Russell Fry, who is backed by Trump. But if Rice can clear out the primary in a district as Republican as his, while being upfront about that impeachment vote, that could be a good sign for other House Republicans that voted for impeachment and are in more moderate or competitive seats. Another primary to watch is Mace's. This is someone that Trump backed in 2020. That was one of the 15 House Republicans to flip a House seat, but she was outspoken about President Trump after the January 6 attacks. She's being challenged by Katie Arrington, a former Defense Department official endorsed by Trump. And most Republicans I've talked to are expecting Mace to win her primary outright. But given the moderate Republican voter base in Charleston and Arrington being the only active candidate running against her, there's a chance that she can hold Mace under the 50% needed and cause a runoff.
2 very interesting races to see kind of how these strategies of trying to navigate Trump's ire pan out. So we'll definitely be watching those. What other races should we be paying attention to today?
So 2 incumbents I'm watching in Nevada, Democrat Dina Titus and Republican Mark Amade. Both have notable challengers on the further wings of their party. Titus's main challenger is Amy Vilela. She was backed by progressive Senator Bernie Sanders earlier this month and supports Medicare for all. But also in South Texas, there is a special election to fill the seat of Democrat Philemon Vela. Republican candidate Myra Flores is the lead fundraiser in this race. She's benefited from outside Republican groups spending money. But Republicans have talked a lot of game and done a lot of investments in this region of the country, trying to appeal to more moderate Hispanic voters. So we'll see tonight if Flores does clear the primary outright. We'll see if that Republican investment pays off.
All right, a lot to watch for tonight, and heading into those November elections, we'll get a lot more information about the electorate and the Republican Party at large. Musadiq Bidar in Nevada for us, and Aaron Navarro here in Washington. We appreciate your time and reporting. Thanks.